Welcome councillors, staff, members of the gallery. Welcome to the council meeting for Tuesday the 23rd of February. I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and their cultural heritage beliefs are still as important to living Kaurna people today. Read the council pledge. We seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Please be seated. Declaration by members of conflicts of interest. So are there any conflicts of interest that members would like to declare tonight? Yes, Councillor Baker.
In regards to Rachel on the street group.
Okay. Any further? Councillor Barnett, same reason?
Same reason.
Yep. Okay, thank you. I'd like to declare that I'm interested in item 17.2 as the chair of Blackfriars Primary School. Primary. Any other conflicts to register? No? Okay, we move on. On leave, we have nil. Apologies, we have Councillor Harris for tonight. Number 4, we have confirmation of minutes for the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 19th and the special meeting of Council on Tuesday the 9th of February. Would you like to speak to it? No. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stanley, would you like to speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Against, carried. And the Mayor's update is over the page. Sorry, it's on page 1. And I've had a quick check. He's correct at time of presentation to you. Has anybody got any questions about it? If not, a mover. Councillor Lee, could you speak to it? Sector. Councillor Mayer, could you speak to it? Any further debate? All those in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. Verbal reports from council representatives on local government or community organisations. Do we have any verbal reports tonight? Right. In case we move on to petitions, we have nil. Deputations, we have 1 regarding the air raid communications shelter engineering investigation. I'll seek leave of the meeting to pull forward item 19.5, which relates to the deputation after we've heard from the deputy. But now I'd like to invite Mr. David Kilner and Mr. Neil Rossiter to come forward to make their presentation to council. Probably around this side over here, gentlemen, because there's 2 seats together there. For the purposes of the minutes, if you could both state your name and it's all in the minutes already. Address? Yes. Stated as per on the screen. Look at that, see. And you have 5 minutes for your deputation, and if you could please be upstanding as you're delivering your deputation because it's a council meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, good evening, everybody. Neil and I are from Prospect Local History Group, and here to talk a bit more about the air raid shelter in Wilcox Avenue. And I won't go into the background because we've presented before on this topic. You know, it's an historic artefact of great cultural and military significance, and next year it's actually its 75th anniversary of construction, if my maths is correct. We've seen the engineer's report. We know that in the short term the problems with the structure can't be fixed, simply too complex, too expensive. But we do note that the structure is now on the Prospect Local Heritage List, and in that sense the community has a responsibility to care for the structure, and it belongs to the future as well as the past. It's obvious that there's an urgent need to stabilise the structure with some form of pump out the water which gets in from the surrounding water table, and we want to prevent further damage. We could not make the interior accessible at the present time for a reasonable cost, but we can make the exterior accessible. and the cost of doing that we think would be quite modest. And what we suggest is that we want to landscape it, install seating, install historic displays about the war and prospects role and response, look at war heroes, add murals. And with your permission, Mr Mayor, I will table a diagram which we've drawn up.
Yeah, just on what that's going to start to pass around to save your time.
Yep, okay. Thank you. So this is just sort of an aerial shot, and what we're proposing is that we make the surface of the structure pleasant, enjoyable place to be in, that commemorates the war, the civil defence response to the war, and some local war heroes, through seating and panelling. And I would point out that the panelling we're talking about is similar to what we have in the Memorial Gardens. The History Group actually designed and developed those panels, and as a community group we've got a very good price on them, I might add. You guys are experts at managing parks and gardens. This basically is another park or garden, and it's just another one to be added to your list, not a very big one. We want it to be a pleasant place for the community to visit during daylight hours. And eventually it could dovetail into a wider plan for the Oval or Main North Road, but we don't need to wait for that because that structure in a sense stands alone and you can do something creative with it. Do point out that grants are available for this sort of work that we're proposing. I spoke to Claire Hennessy, who's Executive Officer of the Anzac Day Commemoration Fund, and she assures me that local government authorities are eligible. Grants are available up to $20,000 on a matching basis for local government. And most of the sort of work we're talking about can be done under that program. It's been suggested to us that there would be, if you put a sump pump in, it would cost about $300 a year to operate. And I'd be very happy to take a proposal to the local history group that we share that cost equally with you, because we're very keen to see that this structure is stabilised. We do think the costings offered by the engineer are vague, probably represent the maximum rather than the minimum, which is understandable. But we do urge you to actually try and get some realistic costings done, so you actually know what you would be up for if you were to renovate the structure properly.
1 minute left, Mr. George.
Okay. And we think you should be shovel ready for a proper interior upgrade to take advantage of any opportunities which come your way. Sorry.
Hello, my name's Neil Roster. I will be brief. I've been creating some honour boards for the local primary schools, and I've been astounded by the history that is associated with Prospect. But it's not the only history of Prospect. So excuse the temerity of me asking, but there are some opportunities just to keep the building salvageable. It just needs to be dry. If we can have, as David points out, a sump pump put in there and apply for grants through the Anzac Commemoration Day Fund, it may actually reduce the exposure of the council's initial financial aspect or input towards it. So I hope that today that we could come up with some plan that could keep this building salvageable for any people that come after us. We recognise that the things that we want to do are down the track, but in the meantime we'd just like the building to be stable, and so for any future plan. Thank you for the opportunity for speaking.
Yes, that's it. Perfect. Thank you very much. It's always great to have deputations with good ideas and documented as well. So I really appreciate that. Have any elected members got any questions of the deputies? Well, Councillor Barnett.
Yes. Thank you for your presentation. I'm just curious to understand, was it a surprise to you to find this an agenda item when perhaps you're under understanding that it's going to go to a workshop to be discussed and that you could make proper presentation?
Well, I wasn't really sure of what the timing would be. We communicated with the relevant person in the administration here. We sent a letter, which I guess you could have access to, but some quite detailed ideas. I'm happy to table that if you want me to.
Yes, you could. Thank you.
And it was clear to us that it would come before council at some stage, but exactly when we weren't informed. So, yeah.
Thank you for the question. Any further questions? The Deputy? No, that concludes your presentation. Thank you very much for coming along. And please resume your seats in the gallery. And if I can now leave the meeting to pull forward item 19.5, which deals with this matter, which is currently on page, whatever it is, let's have a look, to the recommendation on 220, page 219 and 222. Those in favour of pulling the item forward, if you could thus indicate those in favour, and against, it is pulled forward. Come on, my eyes didn't quite reach around to you, and I realised I really should be looking for your hands going up or down. There it is. Yeah, in favour. In favour, excellent, good. So we'll just pull it forward now. If you could head to 219, 222, and in particular page 220. So the recommendation from the staff is there. Has anybody got any questions, firstly, about the recommendation? No, that being the case, someone prepared to move it. Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it?
Yes, I think the recommendation is a reasonable one in the fact that we now actually have the air raid shelter classified by the Ministry of Planning as a local heritage item, which was not brought out in this report, most probably because the report may have been written before that was a bit more firmly established. So I think it's quite reasonable. The Prospect representative of the local Prospect Local History Group said that the history group members would be more than happy to enter, into looking at grants. A very good possibility of a grant to help with this, and it's sort of a little bit complicated, as we know, because Prospect Council is the actual owner of this now local heritage item, one of only 3 of this type of structures in the whole of South Australia. And the other one is one that is run by the Holdfast Bay Council, which is operational. I suspect they got in before a lot of all the different laws that now prohibit, some of the things. But at any rate, obviously the council is quite happy down there with its risk management. So I think this is quite a good example for council to be following there, be it down the track. But point this is under the air raid shelter. I think that's one that has a pump also, very similar to ours. So we would hope that council could see its way clear. This is a bid, right? So we're not actually locking council in. It would go, as I understand, to bids. I was a bit surprised actually myself to see this on an agenda item because I felt that it could have been far more valuable to have gone to a workshop first, and then we could have worked through a lot of things that have had to hastily come before us. And so I was actually considering if it was possible that the item be referred back to a council workshop in March 2016. But I don't know, I would seek advice from the director through the mayor about the possibility of that.
Well, you've just moved it as it is. I guess there's no reason why we can't discuss it further as part of the budget bid process. It's probably the logical place for it to go, and just allocate enough time and get knowledge from the staff. That's probably the most effective way to do it. But we're given more information to be able to have that discussion, and perhaps an idea of what it would cost to do this sort of thing as well, and what the grant possibilities are, and all those things. I think Councillor Barnett would be you'd expect to see in that discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Do I have a second? Sorry, have you finished speaking? With I saw you stand up. Was that to say yes? Do I have a second? Councillor Standing, do you wish to speak to it?
Yeah, I have a question to the Director of Administration through the Mayor. Am I to understand the sump pump's already there, or do we have to actually purchase the sump pump?
Through the Mayor, we have to purchase it and install the sump pump.
So, further to that, the $300 we're looking at electricity is over and above the purchase price of a sump pump, which looks like it's like about $5,000 or something like that.
Yeah, the installation of the sump pump and associated works is in the order of $40,000.
Okay.
And we're talking about a $300 operating budget that will go into the operating budget to service and maintain that pump.
Right. Okay, thank you. I guess we hope it's cheaper than 40,000, but we haven't got it.
It's an indicative.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Stanton? Any further debate from anybody else, Councillor Grigg?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Look, I just want to make a couple of comments. One is that I'm very supportive of the recommendation. I think this is something that we need to keep on our agenda. It is an important asset that we have in our community. I think the issue is in 5.5 of the report where it talks about the issue of water going in. So the pump is really a quick fix remedy. It's not going to solve the problem of water going into the structure, as I understand it. And over time, there'll be an issue of water keeps going into it, irrespective of whether we pump it out or not. So I just think it's really important. It's not a bid yet, but it should be discussed as part of the budget. So I think it's a sensible recommendation, and I think particularly in terms of looking at what we want to do with that whole precinct, this forms part of that conversation as well.
Thank you. Any further debate? That concludes the debate on this. Councillor Barnett, you wish to sum up?
No, I think Councillor Grigg for his sensible comments, and I just hope that the rest of elected members will realise that I think we've had quite a fluctuation in what the local history group and some of its experts it has consulted previously about this. So I would think that the $40,000 capital bid is more of a max, like what's it when it's perceived as being the biggest sort of type of bid rather than what it could actually be as well. So
thank you.
Hopefully we can have some more further costings that will make that not seem quite as a big item compared with the rest of our budget.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against is carried. Thank you. And taking on board Councillor Barnett's comments, if the staff could do a bit more work on perhaps a concept design and a bit of a price against that, and see if we can get that price down by the time it comes up to discussion of budget time, which isn't very far away. So, okay, thank you. For those of you in the gallery who are here for that item, that concludes the debate on that item. We'll have you referring to it any further tonight. So thank you for your attendance and deputation, and you're welcome to stay or go. Thank you very much. Okay, so on the agenda, the next item is the motions on notice section 9.1. Councillor Group, moving item of off-leash areas. Now, it is a long motion, and we have a tradition here of asking the mover to read out the entire motion. And I was going to seek your leave to allow the mover not to do that, but I've asked the staff to carefully audit every one of our procedures, and they can't find a single one that says you have to read it out anyway. So I don't know what I've been doing all these years. So you're off the hook, Councillor Group, so please feel free to speak to your motion, which is all in printed form before us all.
Thank you, and I've been practicing that all day, so I'm very disappointed. But look, this story started just before Australia Day, where I was contacted by a number of local residents who use the Oval on a fairly regular basis, and I went out there one morning very early to meet with them and their dogs. And for quite some time they've been using the Oval early in the morning, so this is 6:30 in the morning to about 7:30 to walk the dogs. This is a group of 60-year-old men and women, local members of our community who are using the space. Effectively, the people who are at the Oval at that time, if any of you have been there, or most of you probably haven't at that time in the morning, is a couple of personal trainers, some people walking around the oval, and some residents with their dogs. What it does is also, I think, provides a bit of activation of that space early in the morning, and also provides a bit of passive security for the area as well. This small group of residents also take lots of responsibility for the area, so pick up after other dog owners, or more specifically their dogs, and so that provides that sort of extra bit of service that happens in the morning as well. That all said, a member of our community felt quite aggrieved by the fact that some people are walking their dogs on the oval off their leash in the morning, when clearly and strictly speaking the bylaw requires them to be on leash, and so there's no argument about that, so the bylaw at the moment says that. Last week, one resident got fined $105 for having their dog off the leash. Now, I think that's quite an appropriate reaction because the staff are doing and carrying out what we set as policy. So there's no criticism of the staff. I just want to make that very clear on the record. But it just shows that, at 6:40 in the morning, somebody being fined for a dog off the leash when there's really another 5 people in the area doesn't seem to be particularly sensible. What this did to me was highlight a bit of an anomaly between how we treat dogs on leash and off leash across our 3 major ovals, so Charles Cone Reserve, Broadview Oval and Prospect Oval. So Prospect Oval is the only oval that doesn't allow dogs off leash, the other 2 do at the times that have been proposed in the motion. What I'm not trying to do by this motion is create a quasi-dog park. There might be an argument to have a dog park on this side of Main North Road, that's for another time, another place. But what this is doing is trying to protect the people who use the oval in the morning and also try and make consistent the rules that we apply to dogs off leash on our parks. The residents who are there have obviously been talking to the trainers who are also on the oval in the morning, as I mentioned. They're very supportive of dog owners, they're all very responsible dog owners, and have even offered to put a petition up to keep them there with their dogs off the leash. So I think that shows some of the support they have. Excuse me. There's this issue that's come up today and over the last 24 hours about whether dogs on leash or off leash, how it affects the current leaseholders, licence holders. I believe it's a licence, not a lease. And so we have particularly the football club. I just want to make a point about the fact that the licence agreement allows the sporting clubs to use the oval at particular times during the day, irrespective of what's going on at the oval. So you could have a jumping castle with kids on it, you could have the local ferret group, you can have dogs on off leash. It doesn't matter what's going on at the oval, the sporting club still has the right to use the oval at the time. So the issue of whether it's a dog on leash or dog off leash in terms of that licence agreement, for me really is a bit of a moot point. There's been no call to have dogs off the oval. There's been no complaints. There's been no concerns raised about dogs not being on the oval at all, as far as I know. In my 5 odd years of council experience, we've never had that. So it doesn't change the fact that the oval is being used for these activities. It's just about dogs on the leash or off leash. The thing I like about being part of this council is that we can be a bit sort of nimble and reactive to things as they come up. We can try things, and if they don't work, we can try something else. And I'm hoping that this is a bit of a solution to what is a small problem and a small annoyance for one person, but affects a number of people who do use have their dogs off leash at the oval. I don't think it's going to significantly change the use of the oval. I think there'll be people who use it in the morning, there'll be people who use it in the afternoon, that will continue. As I said, it's a moot point as to whether they're on or off leash in terms of the sporting clubs actually using the oval in the afternoon or in the morning. I'm hoping it gets support around the chamber. I certainly hope it will. I know the residents are hoping it will as well, but I commend it to you and look forward to some interesting debate.
Thank you, Councillor. That was 4 minutes and 59 seconds, so obviously you've been around a while. Do I have a seconder for the motion? Councillor Standen, who's to speak to it?
Yeah, just as much as I support, I think it sounds like there's a history of these residents and their dogs using the space responsibly, and whether the policy has, whether it's on leash or off leash, it sounds like they're not going to change their behaviour, so I support it.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Bono.
I congratulate Mark Cleave in bringing this to the council's attention. Came to my attention a bit earlier. The resident question about concerned about behaviour and people so-called breaking bylaws was referred to the team, and obviously there was an education process that went on prior to expiation, and look, I'm a dog owner and I'm also supportive of having places for people to walk their dogs off leash. And the problem is I'm concerned that we're doing this on the run. So when I saw this come up, I contacted the lessee of the oval, and they hadn't been contacted in regards to this. And I think just as due diligence, particularly if this particular resident also finds other bylaws that could be protected. And I think giving that satisfaction to that particular person to be so reactionary, I think we need to do it properly. We need to consult all the stakeholders. I'd like to see this resolved within a very short period of time, but I'd like to sort of move that it actually goes back to the administration, so if people are consulted, then it comes back to council with that information. I'm comfortable with that as it is. I support the reasons behind it, but I think that we haven't consulted the lessee and the cricket clubs and those kind of people as well. And I think what this has done has actually embarrassed the council, and there's a few things on the agenda today. In the absence of a park strategy, and we've been asking for it for ages, and through the chair I'd like to ask the director when they come to council. Because if we had a park strategy, we're informed that we've got a growing dog ownership and we could be spending money in the right areas.
Just hang on, you've asked a question, but before you asked a question, you seem to foreshadow an amendment to refer the matter for consultation with the stakeholders.
Yes.
So
because I don't want to make a change to a law today. I think that's irresponsible.
I understand the principle, but I'm trying to manage the meeting within our procedures and the Act. So I'll try and deal with your amendment first, if that's what you're intending to do.
Yeah.
So if I take it that your amendment would be to refer the proposal to, or the proposal as moved, to stakeholders for consultation prior to returning to council.
As soon as possible, convenient.
It's not contrary to the motion, so I'm assuming we can do that. It's not an adjournment, it's a specific amendment to enact a process. And so I'm happy to accept your amendment as put to the chamber, I think by me, on your behalf. No wonder I accept it. But that is your intention, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm for sentiment, it's just a technical way that it's
okay, I understand that. We're pretty, we work together a fair bit, so I will take the liberty of asking the mover in a second if they're happy to do so. If they are, it won't be an amendment, but I will just see how they're going with that. Councillor Green?
I know can I say yes and I'll say no, but that's because some of the information that Councillor Bowman's using to make the amendment isn't actually correct.
Come out and discuss it, so that don't need to ask Councillor Standard. So it is an amendment, and that means I've got to work on that straight away, because we need a seconder to make that work. So we need to capture some words here. So that the matter be referred to the stakeholders for consultation prior to being brought back to council. At a future meeting. As a mover, do you wish to speak any further to the amendment? And then I'll ask if there's a second. You've probably got about another 2.5 minutes.
so I think that would be satisfactory, so that we've got information to make a decision. So I didn't actually receive any information for this motion except for the changes, and it would have been good to have that. So hopefully that will end that situation for next council meeting.
Were you asking a question then, Councillor, as to whether there was any more information?
Yes, well, yeah, okay, thank you. So if there is any more information that can assist us in making the decision, is there?
Yeah, I think there is. I received an email about the staff talking to the football club. So, Director, is that correct? And can you tell us what's the response?
Yeah, through the mail I did manage to speak to Greg Edwards from the football club. He indicated to me that in all honesty, he's happy with the way it's handled at the moment. The dog owners are quite responsible, even if they're on or off leash. But if he has to have anything, look, a restriction in the morning between 5 and 8 would be preferable. If we have to change the bylaw or include Prospect Road in that bylaw. The afternoons he feels that could be problematic because of the training requirements of the Oval, and also he speaks on behalf of the cricket club. They'd probably experience similar problems as well.
Okay, so we've had a consultation, we've had a response, they've been out by email, I got it, let the members see that at all.
I haven't had much of
So it could be there, so that has been done. Any further consultation been done?
No.
That's where we're at. Okay, thank you. So that's the answer to your question, and you've still got a couple of minutes left to talk up your amendment, should you wish still to move.
Right. So I think the amendment would be a more informed decision, and I think it's best practice if we're looking at laws that there are informed decisions. And I was disappointed that there wasn't any accompanying information for the motion prior to going forward. So I would encourage other elected members to support the amendment, and I think that would be doing due diligence, but at the same time I support the sentiment, and I'd like to get it back to council as soon as possible.
Thank you. I'll just speak on behalf of the staff about information with motions on notice. It is incredibly difficult because it's given only minutes before the agenda closes in some instances, so they're not able to do the research and whatever. They can sometimes do it in between the motion being put and us meeting, which is what's happened tonight. But just so you're aware, if any elected member wants to have information attached to their motion, it's really on your back to do it. Otherwise the motion stands on its own on the night, perilously sometimes, but that's how it is. Thank you for that. Do we have a seconder to the amendment? Councillor Barnett, do you wish to speak to it?
Yes. Yes, I too had concerns of just about the process, and I have a little bit more background information to this, and I'm just hoping that it's not like a knee-jerk reaction to some other things that have been happening, and that I don't think it's wise to make policy changes, particularly when I haven't really had time to look at the email properly and absorb the pros and cons from the football club, and I think that was one of the reasons why it was left off and not included in the off-leash and on-leash time, because of consultation that occurred previously with the leaseholders, licence holders of the Prospect Oval complex. So to me it's just all too much knee-jerk, like we haven't really had a chance. There have been some emails from a few Belport residents, and I appreciate, that they'd like to have more places where they can have their dogs off leash, and I can appreciate, that dogs would love to run the length and breadth from Prospect Oval, but I would just like to know that we're making an informed policy change.
Thank you. Any further debate on the amendment only? Councillor, a couple of questions if I could. Yeah, a couple of questions, yes.
I guess the first one is there any background we can be informed of that you might have at hand that would suggest why the Prospect Oval wasn't included in this bylaw to begin with? Is there any background? And I guess I have no background into this. I'd just be interested to know the circumstances in which we left it off, if it is an oversight, and if it is genuinely an oversight, prefer that rather than if there was a reason.
Take the question. Director.
Look, through the Chair, the only thing I can think of is it is our premier oval. It is used very differently in the past, that is, to other ovals around the city because of the cricket club engagement and the football engagement. That's the only thing I could probably draw off that. Apart from that.
In terms of actual evidence, that's not with you tonight, but you could gather that.
We could gather that if need be.
Thank you. Yes, as well, which just relates to, I guess, the interests that are in Prospect Oval. So the football club has an interest, the cricket club has an interest. We have governing bylaws that dictate what happens there. Other than those two licences, are there any other interests that exist over Prospect Oval that might make it different?
No, they're the only true interests of Prospect Oval as far as sporting bodies are concerned.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Councillor? No, Councillor Stanley.
I have a quick question. Is there a history of complaints about dogs on the Oval?
Through the Mayor, I have not received a complaint. Since I've been on board, and I've been council since about 2010. Apart from the current complaint.
Yes, so there's been complaints about us not enforcing our policies. I agree with the director. I've never heard a complaint about bad behaviour, from dogs on or off leash. Anything further, Councillor Stan?
No, I'm good.
No? Councillor Green.
Thank you. Look, I just want to make a couple of comments to the amendment. In terms of being referred to stakeholders consultation, we have spoken, and this has just come up, of course, but just to reiterate, we have spoken to the Football Club. That was done, I believe, before Councillor Bowman spoke to the Football Club. That's my understanding, although I stand to be corrected on that. But it's not as if this was happening in isolation from the licence holder, so that was definitely the case. I just want to reiterate the point that what this is doing, I don't believe it's policy on the fly, otherwise one could argue that most of our decisions are, but this is bringing into line Prospect Oval with other ovals in our area. So it's not as if it's happening without a precedent. Charles Cone Reserve has the same conditions, and so does Broadview Oval. And in terms of other sort of examples, if you look at Unley Oval, and some of you might have seen that on the weekend there was a football match there, West Coast versus Adelaide, and you might have seen some of the news footage that night where there was a number of dogs running off leash at the back of the camera shot. Unley Oval, the Premier Sporting Park, is actually promoted as a dog off leash oval. The other option, of course, for people if they can't use this, is they go to Memorial Gardens, where the risk of dogs running into people is a lot higher at different times of the day, in the morning and the afternoon, in terms of people exercising there as well. And also children, you've also got a 50km/h road zone surrounding that park, which you don't have at Prospect Oval. So there is a risk if dog owners move to that part of that sort of precinct, there will be other issues that will come up. I just think that if the basis of the amendment is consultation, that's happened. I don't think we're going to get anything else that we have got tonight, except delay it for another month.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate on the amendment? That concludes debate on the amendment. We don't have a sum up of the amendment, so I'll take the vote on the amendment now. The amendment is up on the screen. There we go. That the matter be referred to the stakeholders for consultation prior to being brought back to a future meeting. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment? The amendment is lost. Okay, so now we resume debate back on the original motion. And so far we've had speakers, Councillor Group and Councillor Sten as mover and seconder, and Councillor Bowman and Councillor Barnett as mover and seconder of the amendment. So is there any other debate on the motion? Unfortunately not, because you've already spoken. Yeah. Even without the amendment, you've already spoken. No further debate on that. I'll call for Councillor Group to sum up, if you wish.
Why not? Look, just to reiterate.
No, do it.
Look, I don't believe this is policy on the fly. If it doesn't work and we create other issues as a result of this decision, it's not as if we can't come back and debate it again and make some other changes. As I said, this brings it in line with our other two major ovals, which has organised sporting on those ovals during the week and also on the weekend. I think it's a very sensible approach to this issue, and I hope there's support around the chamber for it.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the debate on this item. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Excellent. Thank you for that motion and the debate. Questions with notice. We have nil. Questions without notice. Are there any? No? Good. Protocol. We'll adopt reports en bloc unless they're withdrawn. I'm not aware of any that have to come out, but you may have interest, of course, in various items. The 15.1 Eastern Health Authority Charter Reviews. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? Councillor Evans. The item 16.1 Prospect China Engagement Action Plan Update. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? No. 17. Sorry, Councillor Bowman. Sorry, I didn't see you there. 17.1 Memorial Gardens Play Space. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? Councillor Bowman. 17.2 Response to Adelaide City Council. Councillor Larwood. 18.1 Gazettal of Local Heritage Places Development Plan Amendment and Historic Conservation Zones Development Plan Amendment. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? No? Mate. 19.1, the second budget review. Does anybody wish to withdraw that? Councillor Bowman. 19.2, Local Government Association 2016 Ordinary General Meeting Notices of Motions. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? No. 19.3, Policy Review Protection of Information Policy. Anybody wish to withdraw that? And 19.4, Policy Review, Internal Review of Council Decisions, Policy and Procedures. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? No. And we've done the air raid shelter already. So can I have someone please move on block 18.1, 19.2, 19.3 and 19.4? I think Councillor Barnett won that race. Do I have a second? Councillor Lee, for the city's sake as well as God's, some would claim. So all those in favour? Against? All carried, thank you. Back to item 15.1, Eastern Hill Authority Charter Review, page 3. Councillor Evans, just a brief reason why you withdrew it.
Just like the question.
Okay, I'll allow you to fire away with your question. It's a brief one.
Sure. So I guess just to, well, I guess it's not, so it would be a little more detailed.
Thank you for fitting the same. Are you prepared to move it in its current form? Okay, then as mover, you can get stuck straight in asking your question.
Sure. So I do support the motion, and I think we've got a resolution here that's going to hopefully tie what is a very long story together. And just out of interest though, when we left this off at the last council meeting, there was talk around there, words to the effect of skill set. Now I noticed that the motion's been reframed to include all sorts of individuals as potential board members, but the words relevant skill set don't seem to feature in that. So I'm just wondering from the director if we could receive a brief update as to how the deliberations went. I'm the director.
Yes, so acting CEO will take that one. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. And through the chair, look, all I could say on that is, I guess as an outcome of the legal advice from Warman's lawyers, it was felt that it wasn't required.
Thank you. Councillor Evans, anything further? No? Do I have a second? Councillor Barnett, do you wish to speak to it?
No, I think it's, apart from saying that this really ties up, by it's been a little bit of an ongoing thing. We've had a change of some board members and a fresh look at this, and so I think this is quite a sensible outcome.
Thank you. Any further debate on this one? No, that being the case, I'll take it there's no summing up. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Item 16.1 on page 40, the Prospect China Engagement Action Plan update. Councillor Fine, just a brief reason why you withdrawn it.
I just wanted to clarify, I guess, values for money and what we're actually getting out of the next trip. And I just wanted to ask a few questions about what we're going to get out.
Okay, that sounds like a bit more than a brief question. Somebody wish to move it in its current form. Councillor Larwood, wish to speak to it.
I will speak to it briefly. I'm in support of this, and I see it as a long-term strategy that requires time and commitment and input by us in order to achieve something. We might start talking about KPIs and deliverables and those sorts of words, which is fair enough, but I think it's potentially too early to expect to better hit some of those targets. So we have to consider this as a long-term plan. And that's all. I think I sort of said something that made some sense to me at least.
Thank you, Councillor Larwood. Let's move it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Green, wish to speak to it.
I was going to say what Councillor Larwood said actually. It made lots of sense, and I think he was spot on. This is a long-term relationship, and dare I use the J word, the journey that we're going on with this process. We can't just start and stop and start and stop. We've got to continue with it. I'm very supportive, and if it gets up, I wish them all the best.
Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Bowman, back to you. Just kind of questions?
Look, I just had concerns. I mean, it is a state initiative, and I'm just wondering, obviously there's a lot of local councils involved. We're the second smallest council. This is our second visit. And I know we have an international strategy, and China is obviously part of that. Other international areas we pursue. but at $7,500, this is the second trip. I guess it's not so much the money, but I just guess the value we're getting for it. Now, I just wanted to clarify also the role of the Mayor and your role with the Blackfriars, and if you can clarify that.
Yeah, I can clarify that one. I've spoken to Blackfriars as recently as today, saying if they want to be involved, they have to fund someone going over. For two reasons. It's not appropriate for the council to support to that extent a company that's well advanced in their liaison with a potential business stream. They have an MOU. It's not like they're being introduced to a party. They need to exercise the MOU. The other reason is, to do that, they need to have more detailed and specialist people there to give substance to the relationship we're trying to set up. And I can't do that on behalf of the business. I wouldn't pretend to do it for anybody. So they're well aware and are now organising their participation directly. Your other question, though, I think I'll direct to the Director if I can, about overall value that we're hoping to get out of this visit and in combination with the previous one. Imagine.
Yeah, through the Mayor. Yeah, as has been mentioned tonight, it is a long-term vision and journey. There are a number of meetings set up. One is with a follow-up third meeting with the Haya Group about the R&D project, and then there is a second meeting with another competing tech company, Hisense, who are going to receive the same pitch that Haya Group have had, shopping the idea around. But really, it's very much there's a need for the Department of State Development have strongly suggested if there is a business from Prospect going or from a council area going, it's very highly regarded in Chinese business culture that the mayor is there. The fact that it happens to be Blackfriars, they're a business of the city, and you would have in the report it clearly states we've done a fair bit of work in trying to educate the other areas of the business community. There's some gaps there, and we're working on that. This is an opportunity to leverage off what the state are doing, the other councils, and to do it alone and chase an international agenda without that support, it would be very difficult.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor Bates?
So I just wanted to confirm there's no other Prospect, City of Prospect businesses going along except for Blackfriars.
That's correct.
That's correct.
I understand others were, but there's been a late withdrawal. Is that correct?
Through the Mayor, another company they applied to DSD and they withdrew their application due to health reasons with one of the family members.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor Bates? Any further debate on this item? No, Councillor Evans.
So just to ask a question around the word reallocates, part one of the recommendation. So I take that means we're actually spending money outside budget, or we're doing is moving it around inside the budget. So this is not going to have a net impact on the budget history.
Director?
Through the Mayor, that's correct. It's a reallocation.
Thank you. Anything further, Councillor? Councillor Lee.
So just to support the motion, and I was just going to say that it's actually, we're not doing any extra spending, we are redirecting funds, and it looks like it's going to be money better spent in this situation. And I think it's really important that we do keep sending delegations to China. It's not like other, like with the US we could probably just do a link up or something, but the way that China do business, they really value that face-to-face and you coming to them, and I think it's really important that we continue to grow these relationships. These projects go towards, possibly towards the enhancement of Main North Road. We've got a master plan happening for that, and I would like to see these companies being part of that master plan. From little things like this, big things grow, and these things take years, and it may not happen in this term, but we keep fostering these relationships, keep sending people when we can, and I think great things will come out of this.
Thank you. I'll take the liberty of speaking briefly from the chair, and I do this with reticence because I'm named in the motion, but I sought some guidance from the staff today, and I'm really at your command in this sense. You're going to have a delegation. If you're going to get involved in international trade and relationships, you've got to send somebody. It's likely you're going to send them there. That happens to be me. What I can say is I'm really prepared to do this because I agree with the speakers. I don't know how we can set up an international relationship if we don't get over there and to do two things. One is to meet people in their hometown, and secondly is for us to develop an appreciation of how they do business. And that's so much easier to do when you're in their hometown than it is having them over here where they're questioning how we do our business and modifying their behaviour in ways they think are acceptable to us. China is a very, very different place to Australia, and I'll have to say, having been there twice last year, it has helped me understand how they live, what their culture is, what their background is, how much they rely on government to guide their economy in ways which are well beyond what we do here. Equally, their appreciation of my knowledge of their background is really palpable. And I remember standing on the bus when the director had the delegation of business migration agents here, and when I said I'd been to Beijing and told them what I'd seen there, they applauded that, which I've never applauded me for being anywhere before. So they were doing that because they recognised that we were serious about this, and that we were genuine about having a relationship on, I wouldn't say on their terms, it's probably overstating it, but they really appreciated that we were taking the time, that we weren't just selling ourselves and hoping that they'll buy a product that we're trying to flog. This is difficult. I'm not sure we will get this, but I'm committed to doing my best on your behalf, if you choose to send me, to make sure that we absolutely push as hard as we can in this space and to work out how to get this working for us, be it development, be it for the school or for Prescott College or whoever else wants to participate. I understand the director's been in touch with 10 businesses who are interested, 5 or 6 of them very, very interested, but they're at too early a phase at this point. But I do see that it has excited our local business in a way that we haven't seen before. And I think for them, that's a tremendous thing. And they may not ever do business with China, but we've got them thinking about doing business offshore, perhaps for the first time in their lives. And I think that's tremendous. An accommodation to you for supporting the program so far. I just want to conclude by saying I was delighted to hear today that Blackfriars have 3 MOUs. 2 of them are in Shandong, and the other one is in Jibu, which is the second city we'll be visiting when we go there. So I'll be able to go with hopefully the principal of Blackfriars to the school they have a deal with in Jinan and the one in Jibu, and hopefully that provides a real impetus for the school to take on students in the 2017 year and start a longer term relationship, and it'll be our first cab off the ranks, so to speak. So I thought that was actually better than having one MOU that we could exercise, and we're visiting both of those cities. So back in your hands, but I'm prepared to take a week out of my life to get there. It's a week when I can't be doing other things, but if you want me to do this, I think we've got to do it as well as we can. And that means we've got to get over there once a year. I think it's probably reasonable. Thank you. Councillor Barnett, I think we will speak to.
Yes, I think the point's already been made that we are committed to this in our budget and in our economic development planning. And I attended as one of the champion groups, one of our business, Prospect Business Network's cultural information sessions on doing business in China, and it is incredibly a complex process. I've personally been to China as a third level, not anything to do with my being a member of council, but at a third level government thing, be it in 1989, but the cultural aspect really doesn't change all that much. They are incredibly bound within their culture thing. With you don't speak to anybody, at different levels in the cultural sort of tier of power, so to speak. Similar in Japan, and that the mayor is seen to be an incredibly important person in the negotiation process. So if you send like a deputy or somebody else, unless they perhaps speak Mandarin or something, have some other saving grace, but that is the protocol. So I think we are committed to this. It's an incredible opportunity for us with our state government, making the big running on it. And even though we're a small council, that doesn't mean to say that we shouldn't stop trying to do things and interest some investment at whatever level within our city.
Thank you, Barney. Councillor Barnett, sorry. Thank you, Barney. Sorry, we're in a schoolroom. Thank you. Any further debate on this item? If not, Councillor Lau, would you wish to sum up?
Yes, I would like to sum up. So I agree with the sentiment around the room. One thing I'd like to add though, I'd like to be sure that we're not just in it to win it, going over there because everybody else seems to be. I don't think that's the case. It's not necessarily clear to me exactly what our strategy is, except for to go over there and to absorb the culture and learn how to do business with China. And I don't know whether there's a document that I have read but have forgotten, or have not read but could have read, or haven't received because I haven't been sent it, which outlines what our strategy is, why we've chosen to try to target the sort of businesses that we're looking to partner with, why that makes sense, why we believe that's the right size business to target, how we might expect to land some low-hanging fruit in order to demonstrate that it is possible to develop this relationship, which will help prove the business case to other local businesses, and to give us some runs on the board that when we go back there in the third year we can say, well, this is what's happening now, let's up the ante on it. So I'd just like to have the confidence that we've considered this right down to a fairly deep business level, and that we have taken those things into consideration, and we are on the money with regards to where we're aiming. For example, we might say, someone else might say, you're kidding me, Hisense is going to deal with the council the size of Prospect. Or they might say, no, that's the perfect size match. I don't know whether we've gone down to that level of analysis or scrutiny as to our targets and those types of things like that. So does that lead me to ask a question? Is there a document? No, it doesn't. Lead me, of course it wouldn't. Anyway, I'd just like to be sure that that sort of documentation, that sort of thinking and analysis has been carried out, and that we are on the money with what we're doing.
Apologies to Councillor Lau, not permitted to raise any matters in your summing up, so I can barely get you to ask. Well, it's a very sensible question in your summing up. That concludes the debate. All those in favour? All those against? Okay, it is carried. And take it on notice, Director, that information provided in the report is not sufficient to certainly satisfy Councillor Lau's concerns. If we could get that, we'll keep building that case. I think you can talk about those local businesses that are interested, so you can get some idea about that. Some of it's commercial in confidence, which is tricky, but I think we've got to, you've got to give the councillors confidence about who is pretty serious. Thank you, councillors. I will do my best. Next item is 17.1, and I understand that it's withdrawn by Councillor Bowman. So just a brief reason, Councillor, why you've withdrawn.
Stand up?
Yes.
Look, they've still got the white rabbit in there. Yeah. I think we discussed that we didn't want a rabbit. Attention to detail again. We've got these galahs and wombats and all those kind of things. So I don't know why the white rabbit's still in there. And also, I just wanted to look at point 3, the recommendation for the budget bid.
Okay, thank you. And I'm reminding myself that I should have withdrawn this anyway because it's an adjourned matter. So thank you for doing that. And we need to pick up the meeting from where it was, where we left it off. We don't often do this. However, I have my records from the last meeting here, which is why I take it. And I have down here the people who, so I'll just run through it and see the slight dilemma we're in and where we're at. So this was moved by Councillor Evans and seconded by Councillor Barnett that we would do what's on the screen. And those teams have spoken to it: Councillor Barnett, Councillor Bowman, Councillor Evans, Councillor Harris, Councillor Larwood, Councillor Lee. Councillor Standen, I have a note here that you hadn't spoken to it yet. And Councillor Groot had 45 seconds remaining of his 5 minutes. So there has been some new information circulated to you, which talks to the White House and the budget. And what I think we should do is seek leave of the meeting to suspend meeting procedures to enable any other questions and work out a position, because if there needs to be an amendment, you have to convince Councillor Groot to move it, use 45 seconds, and Councillor Standen to second it, otherwise there can be no amendment, and then it'll just rise and fall on its own, because everyone else has spoken. So I'll seek your leave to suspend meeting procedures until 8:20, should we need it. All those in favour? Against, it is carried. Now, the information that was circulated from the Director, from Greg, has everybody got that, had a read of that? It came out a few weeks ago.
22nd of January.
22nd of January. Anyone need a reminder about what was in it? Yep. Yes, please, Director. Greg?
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, look, just we needed to clarify some points, and the spreadsheet that was attached with the report, the figure that was printed there didn't correspond with the figure that was in the resolution. That was an estimate only. That was purely for budgetary purposes. The figure that appears on the report proper is the actual figure. That's the figure that we got an actual quote from.
38,000 is enough to do what's in the motion.
That's correct. And then we talked about, I think, referring to the rabbit, there was an option put forward in that memorandum that we substituted out for a ladybug instead of a rabbit. Happy with that? So we're going with the ladybug. Okay. So is there any other questions around that?
Is anybody arguing that we should keep the white rabbit? I
thought it was a bilby anyway, but
the white bilby. So that does present a small dilemma, because the motion very clearly says a white rabbit springer.
Yeah.
And if we move it, then you'll be compelled, Director, to install a white rabbit springer.
So
I like rabbits.
And look, just add to that. It was a theme. What was the theme? It was
Alice in Wonderland.
It was an Alice in Wonderland theme. So that's where the rabbit came from.
Right.
I'm happy to move the motion.
Wasn't Jefferson.
Have you moved an amendment regarding the ladybug? Thank you. And now, has anybody else got any remaining questions unanswered by the member? Mark?
I'm just reiterating that the modification to the big piece of play equipment actually looked better than the photo that we originally got back. Is that correct?
The photo at the memo you're saying looks better than the original report? From memory, I have.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looked better than the original one. Yeah, that looked better than it actually came out better than what we originally were shown.
So just to clarify, you're happier now than you were before.
That's right. That's right.
Right. Heading in the right direction so far. Anything, that was your question? Yeah, that was it. I saw another question somewhere to my right. Sorry, has anybody else got any other remaining questions? No? In terms of the timing of this, that was another concern people had. The motion says, get on with this bit and budget variation, and then come back with a budget bit, the remaining stage one works. People comfortable with that? Or uncomfortable with it? And so some people weren't comfortable to remove it, but okay, so no further questions about that, you know your position on it? Good. And I'm not sure there are any other moving parts to it. That's where we got to. So when I call us back to order, the only thing that needs to change to match the report is that the white rabbit gets changed to a ladybug springer, and Councillor Groot has indicated he's happy to move such an amendment. I extend, are you happy to second such an amendment? That would be greatly appreciated. Sorry, I could ask the mover and seconder if they're happy to incorporate. That's probably a quicker way. Thank you. That would be better. With that, Councillor Evans and Barnett, you're happy to incorporate? All right, I'll do that. Any further questions? No, good. I'm going to resume debate at where we left off, and that is that Councillor Groot, there are 45 seconds remaining, and I understand that you were just on the verge of asking whether the white rabbit could be substituted with a ladybug springer.
Well, I was going to. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move an amendment to the motion and replace the cute white fluffy rabbit with the stone-looking ladybug, if I could.
Could I just seek your permission to ask the mover and seconder to have you incorporate such a change? And the mover was Councillor Evans, indicated he is. Councillor Barnett, the seconder.
So this is ladybug with banana.
Well, that's the... I'm trying real hard. Is that a yes or a no? Have you incorporate?
Yes.
A yes, thank you. And I seek leave of the meeting to incorporate that change to the motion. All those in favour? Against, it is carried and thus incorporated. No need for an amendment. Councillor Crew, you have 40 seconds remaining should you need.
Look, just this has been the longest motion in history, I think. Just to say that this is a, I think, to replace some of the play equipment that was taken away for some of the more junior play. We talked about that last time. I think we've got the springers correct, we've got the prices correct. It can be done in this financial year. It's a 90-day shipment from Germany, I think, to get the equipment in. We should get it in by the end of June this year, so it's within this financial year. I think it's a really good motion and a good option to replace some of the equipment. 10 seconds to go, I'll sit down.
Thank you very much. Councillor Stan, did you wish to say anything?
Yes, I certainly will be the first one down there to have a go on the ladybug.
Thank you for your contribution tonight, Councillor. That concludes debate on the item. Sorry, Councillor Evans, do you wish to sum up?
Sure. It's quite interesting, and given this has come back to our council meeting tonight, I thought I'd look at where we're up to with budget review number 2, being the astute person that I am, and in terms of whether we can afford it. And this was one of the discussions we were having at the last council meeting in terms of what impact it would actually have, bringing forward capital expenditure in the order of about 38,000. I guess I'm really passionate about seeing a park strategy, and that's a common theme we've had around the table tonight. Certainly looking at our pocket parks as part of that, making sure that there's a good distribution of play equipment and indeed amenity across our parks. But to this in particular, I think the important thing is, are we swimming in the right direction when it comes to infrastructure in our playgrounds and our parks? We do have a Memorial Gardens master plan. If we are serious about seeing that through, then it is a love what we've done so far. Then why would we not consider spending in this financial year if we can? What I can see from our cash flow statement as well, so P&L balance sheet, capital as opposed to operating, but from a pure cash perspective, we said we would have in the order of about 22,000 under the first original budget that we proposed. The revision now as part of the second quarter budget is that we'll have 788,000 in the order thereof, unless I'm incorrect. So what that tells me is that we've got more cash than we thought we would have, probably about $700,000 more than we thought we would have. So 38,000 to spend on progressing forward the master plan I don't see as huge this financial year. I think we can afford it, and I'm really excited after we do this and potentially finishing off the master plan to look at what we can do around our other parks, particularly pocket parks with the park strategy coming online. So having said that, I look forward to supporting the motion, and I urge members to do the same.
Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour of the motion? All those against? It is carried on this sheet. Thank you very much for that, and I think the strategy to get some more information was a good one, and I think we arrived at a good sustainable decision as put by Councillor Evans. So I know tomorrow the Director will be ordering some...
A rabbit. I mean...
I set it up for it, didn't I, really? I had it all there, I had the ball and the little thing, so all we had to do is just hit anyway. That's quite fun. Okay, 17.2, response to Adelaide City Council's draft Adelaide Parklands Management Strategy, 2015 to 2025. We have a recommendation in your papers, and I understand the team have put a third component to it, just to ensure we remind Adelaide City Council of all our great ideas that we've already given them, and that we don't want it to be forgotten. Now, the staff have put this recommendation to us, and Councillor Larwood, you have withdrawn it. Just a brief reason why.
I understand. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I've withdrawn it because whilst I think it's valuable for us to contribute to the Adelaide City Council draft Adelaide Parklands Management Strategy 2015-2025, I won't read the rest of it. I'm extremely disappointed that we find time to contribute to their parkland strategy whilst we're bereft of having a parks strategy of our own.
Okay, so you went withdrawn to make a point. Thank you. So are you happy to? Yes. I'm sorry, I'm a bit abrupt with that because the rules say it has to be a brief reason. You get your 5 minutes of debate, and just the reason I'm abrupt is if you take 5 minutes to tell us your reason and you're still entitled to 5 minutes of debate, that's kind of unfair. So in terms of moving it, are you happy to move it in its current form? Otherwise, I'm happy to seek another movement. Yeah, okay, if you are, then you have 5 minutes to talk to it now.
Without being able to remember what I just said, I'd like to reiterate, it's come up 2 or 3 times tonight. It seems to come up every time we have a meeting. Well, almost every time. Again, we've got time to contribute our resources into someone else's strategy, but we don't seem to have time to actually nail getting underway with a park strategy of our own. There's many things that come our way to make decisions about that relate to a park strategy, and we're not making policy decisions on the fly, but we are working without broader guidance because we don't actually know what our strategy is, and therefore making those decisions maybe out of context is potentially what could be happening. Through the chair, let me just try this and you can tell me if it's not the right thing to do. I'd like to ask the director a question. When will we commence work on a park strategy of our own?
I'll take the question, but I draw members' attention to the principle of relevance. And when you're moving a motion, you must speak to the motion. If you drift too far off it, somebody might call a point of order, and I will have to rule that you're speaking to something else. Now, it sounds the same, but nowhere in this motion to talk about our park strategy. So I'll give you a bit of rope. We'll get the answer, but I encourage you straight after that to talk to your motion. That's all right. Director, timing on, or who can talk to when we're going to have a park strategy, is it budget dependent?
Yeah, through the Mayor, we do have a draft strategy, but, and I think most elected members are across that. Some of the key elements or the essence of that park strategy do fit in line with what we've got here in front of us today as far as what Adelaide City's put forward. But you're absolutely right that it is a draft. We haven't moved on it too much. We have got competing priorities. But what I can assure you is that the park strategy will be presented to Council mid to late this year. There is a lot of creative tension at the moment with our designers trying to sort of address the whole Green Neighbourhoods Initiative as well, where this really sits in that Green Neighbourhoods Initiative. So they're grappling with that at the moment. So I can assure you by mid to late this year we will have a refreshed park strategy, a thoroughly reviewed park strategy, but it will be based on the existing draft one, which we've done a fair bit of work on.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Councillor?
So first of all, apologies for digressing too far away from the motion. So I support the recommendation as it stands and look forward to the opportunity to continue to contribute to the Adelaide City Council Parkland Strategy.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, happy to second it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been an ongoing history here that we have been trying to get our neighbour to come to the party. It goes back quite more than several years ago. So I think at least we are now being asked to contribute, and we are all citizens of South Australia, I suppose, in the sense that Adelaide City Council and the Parklands, although they have the management, the legal management of the carry of it, but it could be seen on a much wider basis than that. So I think we wanted as a council, I understand, to contribute and actually had strategy at a workshop to have input and to try and influence the outcomes. And so it is disappointing that in part two, even though we were sort of, I guess assured that there would be more pressure put on when we were doing the Vaughan Road Bicycle Boulevard, it made absolute common sense that this would happen. And so I think that is a very big failure of the Australian process. And I think I've got 2 emails from the appropriate officer from Adelaide City Council asking me to contribute, sending information before. And so I shall certainly be replying and more or less copying and pasting this into the comments. And it's still open, so I encourage every elected member and to encourage their residents to copy and paste, particularly part 2, to see if we can't get some pressure and get it happening.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further debate on this item? Councillor Group.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. There was just, 2 things. First of all, it is important that we participate in this process. I think, just reiterate some of the comments being made. This park area or this land area abuts our council zone, so it makes lots of sense that we're involved in that conversation. I just have a question about, if you go to page 75, which is attachment 3, the North Parklands Precinct, and it talks there, and I just want to ask a question of the Director, acting CEO, or maybe the Director. Number 7, they're talking about creating a large hub in Park 4. Well, who knew there was a Park 4? I don't know if anyone ever drives. I drive down that road every day, and I must admit I wasn't aware there was a park behind the bushes. But I understand that was a priority, but it's no longer a priority for the Adelaide City Council. Can I just ask the CEO, acting CEO?
Yeah.
Thanks for the question, and through you, Mr Mayor. I can confirm that staff, when they came out to see us to present this to us, mentioned that internally they shifted their position from this being a high priority to no longer being a high priority, which we reflected was probably a good move, given that our council position didn't reference that park as anything of great importance. And they suggested that their new number 1 priority would be works around the playground precinct next to the aquatic centre, which they've recently put significant investment in. So that's where they sit from a staff perspective now, rather than the one forward on the plan.
Thank you.
Sorry, just to follow up, are you referring to number 1 on the map as the playground area, or number 3 and 4?
Through the chair, number 1.
And so, which brings me to 3 and 4, as you'll see on the plan there. As I understand it, that's has had some development in that space as oval space. And if you look at the little legend on the right, it talks in both 3 and 4 about reconfiguring, enhancing the ovals. Really good, and I think we should be supportive of that. But it actually replicates what they're doing in number 7, which is the perimeter fitness track, some facilities. And it just seems to be a bit of a double up doing it in both spaces. A lot of our community use the ovals, which are marked 3 and 4 on that map. And I just, maybe a question, do we articulate that in our response, that we are supportive of that particular area?
Yes, thanks again. Through the chair, our position didn't really put forward a limit, I guess, on the amount of sort of jogging tracks or activity spaces in the correspondence that we put forward in June of last year.
Okay, just a question about are we responding with priorities, and can we? Not in the motion, but can we?
Look, we certainly can, and through you again, we've been asked to come to present to the Parklands Authority on Thursday night, which relevant directors are available to do so. We will be articulating this as well as the previous correspondence and talking about the overall priorities, such as getting the linkages right and some of those other matters that continue to be raised on behalf of those who are this side of Fitzroy Terrace.
Sorry, I do thank you, CEO. I do note in our motion we have priority on the pedestrian and cycling connections. So if we wish to put a priority on items 3 and 4, we probably could do so expressly in the motion to make it really clear that they're our top 3 or 4 things. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, which is going to be my next question about how might we want to articulate some of our priorities. Would that require, just some advice, I guess, would that require an amendment?
I'm just having a look at it now, Councillor. I think if we wanted to prioritise expenditure on items 3 and 4 rather than 7, it would be best if we said so. And that may be a, we could insert it, you could insert it in item 1, or you could have another item 3. I think, I'm just looking at the way it's structured at the moment. Item 1 talks about general support, it finishes up that paragraph by talking about connections. Item 2 flows from that to be specific about a particular bicycle connection. Item 3 is generic about our previous correspondence. It seems to me if you want to move an amendment, it would be a new part 3 saying, further, we wish to place priority on items 3 and 4 as a priority over item 7, for instance.
Well, I'd like to make an amendment for a new item 3, if that's possible, to say something along the lines of further we wish to place priority on items 3 and 4 rather than item 7. I think that space is used more by our residents and it makes sense to improve and extend what we have rather than trying to liven up a fairly dead space which is unlikely to be used given where it is and its coverage from the main roads that go past it.
Thank you. Just tidying up the reference to where those items come from, Councillor. Okay, thank you. Just as is our tradition, I'll ask the mover and second whether they're happy to incorporate those changes. Councillor Larwood is the mover, happy to incorporate. Councillor Barnett is the seconder, happy to incorporate. I'll seek leave at the meeting. All those in favour of incorporating the change, thus incorporated, thank you. Now becomes the motion, so no need for an amendment. Any further, Councillor Brooks? No. Okay. Any further debate on this item? No? Councillor Larwood, you see you need to sum up? No. All those in favour? Against, it is carried. Thank you. Now, get back to item 19.1 on reliably informed. The second budget review for 2015-16. Councillor Bowman, it's on page 160, 161. Councillor Bowman, brief reason why you withdrew it.
The question for page 183, corporate services.
Yep, I'll let you fire over the question.
So it's 183 and under corporate services, so I was just looking at the figure for $45,000 for disaster recovery implementation.
So if you could speak up a little bit.
I apologise. Just regarding item 48 on page 183, disaster recovery implementation capital works and IT consultants. I just wanted to ask through the chair, the director, information about that.
And as in the question being, how did we save the money? Or why does it cost us money? Sorry. Yep. Okay. Do we have who to take the question?
Question. Through you, Mayor, it's really just a reallocation. So when the original project was scoped out, we weren't sure exactly what works we were going to do as part of that project. The $45,000 is actually purchasing hardware, it's purchasing service to be hosted off-site for our DR solution. As a result, we're able to capitalise that and doesn't need to be part of the operating budget. It's just a transfer, really, operating to capital.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Bowman? As that we've already wished to move item 19.1. Yep, do we just speak to it? We'll have a seconder. Councillor Stanton, I think, won that one. Good off the draw. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Stanton? No? Any further debate on that one? All those in favour? Yes, is carried. Yeah. Okay, now that concludes the reports that we had before us. Working through my agenda. There it is there. Next item is Council Diary. A number of events there. The gallery exhibition, the Latin Dance Play, the last Twilight concert is on the park. I can't believe I still bump into people who are very good long-term friends of mine who haven't been to one yet. It's unbelievable. 21 years it's been going, and people keep saying, I've got to get there. This is their last chance for this year. Those people who has, I won't ask. Those of you who haven't been to one yet, I encourage you to get along. It's the biggest one.
Can I ask a question? Will we have our little booth, our little strategic
Yes,
plan?
we will.
I'm there. Yeah.
Yes, you're staffing it. Excellent. And it will be on the other side by the tennis courts this time, okay, to try and cap that side of the park. The African Twilight Markets, Club 502, and the Prospect Fair. Yes, Councillor.
Which way goes to the African Twilight? African Twilight Market, there's a new event. Yeah, look, I'm just reflecting some sentiments from one of the stallholders. They're looking for new stallholders, and I think David Melinda is the contact person. So it is still an event in Robert, still a market that happens in White Street Plaza, like Parcel and Dinner.
Good. Thank you. And yes, often thought about whether we move them to the Twilight concerts, but I'm sure whatever happened to that idea. Prospect Fair is on the 19th of March. This is the last council meeting prior to the fair, so I imagine you will be there. We've got a stall running there as well, and no doubt if you're able to assist, you'll be asked to assist, so that's always a good chance to react to the community. General business. Are there any items of general business? No? Any items of general business of urgent nature? Councillor Lee, on 3.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate and thank the staff, especially the executive team and the managers, for all their hard work over the last couple of months. We have not remained rudderless without our esteemed CEO serving us. We've continued to move forward. We've carried off our major events with great success and support. And we continue to serve our community with professionalism and diligence. So thank you very much for that. And we've been in safe hands, and we look forward to working with our new CEO to continue to help us continue to punch our way. So thank you very much, guys. It's been very, very much appreciated. And ladies, so I shouldn't generalise stuff.
Well done. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to take it that that's a very long motion. Urgent business. Okay, so there's no motion?
No, just want to put that back. You wanted a motion? I'll give it to you.
I was going to say if it's a motion, I'm going to struggle to fit it in, but I could fit it in just because I think I think it would be great to have a motion on the record that commend the staff for managing the transition phase. I think
We could just shorten it to the council saying the staff for managing
the transition phase. Your motion, Councillor, can you just make sure that words are... Managing the transition phase, during the absence of the CEO. Desertion. The CEO at all times. Yeah, I think you said following the desertion of our previous CEO. I think we need that on the record.
On the interim stage between the arrival
Between permanent. Are you happy with your motion, Councillor Lee? You hardly moved to...
I'm happy with that motion. Is the rest of the council happy?
Are you standing up asking for a
I am
seconder?
standing up. I am standing up.
It's not singular.
Oh yeah, just one check.
We can't board
No, it has to be plural because it's between permanent. It's just a minor little technicality. We can't under the Act be without a chief executive officer, which is why I've got acting. Excellent. Anything further to your motion?
No, I think I've said pretty much enough.
Great. And now I can rule that it's out of order in the agenda. No, do I have a seconder to Councillor Lee's excellent motion? Councillor Group, wish to speak to it?
Look, just to reiterate what Councillor Lee said, it's been fantastic to have our acting CEOs serve us very well over the last couple of months. I look forward to next time with our new CEO and we've heard the words punching above our weight a few times tonight. I think we did that really well. We'll continue to as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further speakers on the floor? Just from the chair, I thank you very much for the motion. I didn't realise it was coming, but I think he said it very, very well in the first instance. It has been a tremendous privilege for me to be able to walk in and not actually think, I might think this is rude, but not actually think who's the acting CEO today and what I need to do. It was absolutely seamless. So as the transition happened between the directors, I didn't need to worry at all about who was picking up the reins. The business of council just kept running, as I say, seamlessly, without interruption, to strategy or operations. And I think that's a tremendous commendation to all of you. It's a pity that Director Ginny Moon is not here with us, and we need to, hopefully you can pass on our sentiments to us. I know you're doing a fantastic job. Acting Director of Corporate Services and all good things, you've got involved in the checkbook, but you did get a turn as acting CEO that might happen one day. But I do think it's a great motion, and I think you've done us proud in terms of not just carrying us forward, but doing so without calamity, without confusion, without the industry wondering what's going on. And you know, in the absence of all those problems, you kind of think, well, that's just how it should be. You don't think about it until something goes wrong and you seek someone to blame. We didn't get anywhere close to that. So I think it's a great commendation for your work and for your professionalism. I don't hear any scuttlebutt about who is better than who, or a desire to change the order, or to someone self-promote that they should do more rather than less. And again, I think all those things which are absent is what makes it such a fantastic period that we're in. So from my position, I thank you very much, Saul, and I consider the vote for the motion. But any further debate? You need to sum up, Councillor Lee. All those in favour? Against is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Confidential items are in nil, so I close the meeting.